this assignment, I chose to analyze and redesign the game Where's My Water, developed by Disney, at least the first installment of the franchise, or the sequence. Um, the basic premise of the game is that there's an alligator in this fictitious world that lives underground named Swampy. Swampy just wants to take a nice hot shower, but because of his neighbor Cranky, who destroyed all the plumbing pipes underground, he cannot. So we need the Swampy needs the player's help to deliver him fresh water through all the obstacles and the courses of dirt in between the water pipes and Swampy's bathroom and his bathtub. So what can users and players learn from this game? They can learn basic fluid mechanics, fluid behavior and movements, a general understanding of viscosity and what that means, or at least an example of it. The kinematics and momentum of how fluids work, especially in contact and in context of other hard surfaces. Very little or very little prior knowledge is necessary, seeing as they're probably the only knowledge, if you can call it that, that you players need to know is what water is, and that what toxic water is, and what algae is, for example. Some of the things that can be transferred out of the game from this game are those said things about the fluid mechanics and physics-related things. Players can apply that to their understanding of water guns and water pressure, water slides, and also even as things as roller coasters, because they use a lot of the same concepts in terms of using the momentum and banking and redirecting water as you do in the game. So naturally this game is targeted towards a younger audience, but adults are more than welcome to play as well. To analyze the mechanics, dynamics, and the aesthetics of the game, first, the mechanics is, as I said, to deliver the clean water from the top of the map, or maybe even a spout or a hose that leaks water, down back into Swampy's bathtub. To do that, players using their hand dig a path through the dirt for the water to fall in, and naturally using gravity, water falls down depending on how the player digs through the tracks. Along the way, there are various rubber ducks placed throughout the map, and players can collect them for points and for completion and unlockables later on in the game by having them absorb water. And there's a little sound and animation that keeps track of how much water they absorb until the player finally obtains them. There are other elements in the game, such as toxic water, which contaminates all the water source if it touches fresh water, algae, which grows as it absorbs water, goo, which dissolves dirt, and also there are others like lifts and elevators and other elements like that, and switches, as you can see in the map, on the visual on the right. And different combinations of these fluids and game elements dynamically interact to create a whole nother experience for the game. As speaking of dynamics, moving on, the dynamics of it requires, because there's a lot of timing involved and strategizing and precision involved, the player really needs to think through the plan of action. Sometimes there's timing involved, so there's time management, and it can get quite difficult, the levels that is, so it can really test the player's patience in some cases. And what that all provides is a fun experience. So what kind of fun? Challenge for sure. It is a puzzle game after all. There's this notion of discovery, and that they might find out for the first time how fluids work, and how angles of and how fluids falling off of a fluid interact coming down a bank or a slope, and so on and so forth. And obviously, of course, there's this make-believe world of Swampy that likes to bathe. So some of the learning principles from this game then are scaffolding. They may take a level or two to introduce new mechanics throughout the game, but man, it ramps up quite quickly. And also, the feedback timing is pretty immediate. It will tell you immediately if you fail, and that is if you run out of water, or if you if you channel in the wrong type of fluid into Swampy's bathtub. And there are many different, being a smartphone and a tablet game, there are many different ways the game delivers instructions and guides. The design changes that is to create a sandbox mode where there's an open sandbox for the players to create and really play around with all the different mechanisms that can be found within the game. This can be seen in other kinds of games such as Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation, as you can see on the right, or there are other games completely revolving around this whole idea, like Roller Coaster Tycoon. The value added is that because there's this idea of exploration and fun, it really sticks. It makes it more entertaining, and as a result, when they do discover these things of how the fluid, players are more likely to remember it. It creates a more safe and fostering environment, and it segments because there are different. Well, first of all, variability because the players can create different instances and different ways of applying these same ideas, and segmenting because there are different ways, because it splits up the various mechanics and the ways of learning this. The second change is a tutorial, or a bit more explicit and more instructive tutorial, because currently there isn't as explicit a tutorial, and it can really give hints as to try digging through a path that's very precise and facilitates a stronger water redirection and things like that. Other suggestions that the player can really pick up on and apply later in the game. Many games have these tutorials, and it can be really, really important in learning. What these can introduce then is the idea that they can better learn and better apply throughout the game, and it kind of prevents the notion that some players sometimes stumble upon getting the right answer, or luckily. This provides anchored learning because it really emphasizes and hones in on those particular concepts, and it also application because of what they learn they'll be able to apply later on in the game. Thank you.